Getting laid off from a job can really suck, right? And if you're going through that right now, or if you've left a job, or even if you're in a transition from one thing to the next, well, I feel you can really suck. But I want to share my story about how I was in that situation myself when I was in my early 30s and turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me. And if we haven't met before, I'm Gio Pensino with One True Calling. And the thing that happened to me was that I had found my ideal job. I had left undergraduate school in the middle of a serious recession. There were very few jobs to be had. And I was going to ride my motorcycle across the country, but in the midst of this, into my inbox comes this one job that looked on the surface like it was a perfect fit. I ended up applying for that job, and out of about 600 and something applicants, I ended up getting that job. Now, it didn't totally surprise me because it was a perfect job. It was my ideal job. But like I said, it was the only one that I applied for. I share that because your ideal job, or even to create a business, which I ultimately ended up doing, when you find something that is that perfect fit, we call it being in the flow, where you find that perfect fit between what you love to do and what you have talents in and what the world needs. Well, you can find that perfect fit. But this job ended up being a good fit, let's say that, because I stayed there for about 2 years, but I had a terrible conflict of values with my boss, and he was always like on me because of politics and other things, and ultimately I just couldn't take that anymore. And like I said, if you're in that kind of transition yourself right now, I feel you, because initially it can seem like the worst thing, whether you're in that position or you get laid off, or you leave a business that you created and you're like, what to do next. Well, I feel you. But what happened to me, it turned out to be the very best thing. And in fact, I ended up doing the calculations on it, where if I had stayed in that job where I wasn't fully satisfied, yeah, it was a cushy job, yeah, it paid pretty well, yeah, it had good benefits, but it wasn't the ultimate thing that I wanted to be doing. And then on top of that, to be working for somebody that, having such conflicts with, what a terrible thing. So if you're in that situation and you're trying to figure out what to do next, well, I'll share a few tips in this little episode here now, and I'm going to do some other episodes to kind of share the nuances of what I call my freedom by design methodology. Because here is the thing that I have discovered, and I know for certain, which is that ultimate freedom and satisfaction in life does not come from having a lot of money or making a lot of money. Now, I've made a lot of money and I am pretty prosperous in general, but I'll tell you, what I've come to know is that the ultimate freedom comes from doing something that you really enjoy doing, and ideally, yes, connecting that to something that does provide a good level of income. So I would say the first thing that I did was to assess my situation with that job, and I did not just quit the job. I don't really recommend that. I recommend a more even approach where you assess, like, what is your situation? Is it really that bad? Is it could it lead to something better? Or maybe, like I said, maybe you're running a business but things aren't quite working out quite right. Maybe there's some fine adjustments that can be made. But in my situation, I was like, no. I did that assessment and I was like, no, I've got a lot more potential than this, and there's other things that need to be in my work environment, in my creative environment, in order to feel like I'm fully expressing myself. And like I said, that is the ultimate thing, which is to be fully expressing, your God-given talents. Inside of each one of us, we have natural gifts and things that we're called to do. And we also have things that hold our attention, things that, that we're interested in doing. And when you bring those two things together, well, you get ultimate freedom. And that is what I ended up finding for myself, which is assessing that the situation wasn't ideal for me. So I ended up making a plan. And that plan had to start with, okay, well, if I'm not happy here, what is it that I really, would need to be happy? So I did a process, an assessment process, to see what my natural gifts are centered around, and to see where those gifts can be best applied. I ended up ultimately coming up with two choices, two possibilities. And I ended up narrowing that down to one, of course, because you got to make one choice ultimately. And I ended up realizing that, well, yeah, I'm talented in the areas of visual design and creating environments. So I ultimately ended up going back to graduate school, getting a degree in landscape architecture, and then ultimately ended up starting my own company and grew that company to a little over $12 million in total sales. And I did the math on it one day to see, like, after running that company for many years, the difference if I had stayed in that job, that cushy job, and had not, made the hard work to figure out what was next, and then to put that into action. Well, the difference was about $1 million of additional income that I generated by starting my own company and growing that company and having the freedom that comes from doing what I enjoy doing and what I'm called to do. So that's what I got for you here in this little short segment. And if you're in that process right now, and you'd like to get some insights on how to make that transition with greater ease, or how it is, that you can come to do your own self-assessment around what your strengths are and where the best place is to apply those, well, you're going to find a little link probably somewhere in the description below this video. Somewhere will be a little link that you can connect with me, and I'll be happy to have a brief conversation with you, and we can do some of that dialogue process to find out, like, what are your gifts? What are you really called to do? Because I'll tell you this, the one of the big mistakes that I see people make is looking outside of themselves and running around, putting all these different applications in. Like, I hear people talking about, oh, I put in 100 applications, or I put in 1,000 applications. And not that the job market isn't difficult now, because I'm sure it is. But like I said, there is a perfect place for you. And when you have the awareness, that self-awareness is what I'm talking about. Self-awareness, know thyself, is what Plato coined that term. And there is a reality to that. When you know what your gifts are, and then you match that, you do some research. So it's kind of a combination of passion, purpose, what you're called to do, but then combining that with what is up in the marketplace and where those talents can be applied. And whether that's in a job or in a business, either way, my personal preference is to build a business, to build a practice around what you love to do, because, if you do it well, and you probably will do it well if it's something that you're really called to do, and it includes your gifts, then you're going to make a lot more money. And again, ultimately, you're going to have the freedom that comes from doing what you enjoy doing. And the work becomes easy. The process of building a business becomes, it becomes like something that you can't wait to get out of bed to do in the morning. And ultimately, that is what my Freedom by Design process is all about. Because like I said, you're going to make the best money, you're going to enjoy what you're doing, and you're going to have an impact in the world, because that is what you're called to do. That's what you're put on the earth here to do. So that's what I got for you now. And in one of the next segments, I'll share with you some of the nuances around what that process looks like and kind of how to step into it for yourself. But if you'd like to connect with me, you'll find a link right in this video. I appreciate you subscribing to the channel. And the one true calling that I've said and have talked about is simply the calling to create something in the world, something that has meaning and purpose to you and to other people. So that's what I got for you. I'll see you in the next segment.